Welcome to episode 2 of our Disruptive Innovation podcast series. And today we're going to talk about how to spot those game-changing ideas. Sometimes you get into podcasts, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do, or maybe they'll skip how to do it, or maybe they'll skip some feature. But today, I'm going to focus exclusively on how you can come up with those disruptive innovations. If you missed yesterday's podcast, go ahead and jump back to that podcast. It's available for you on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Spotify, etc. And if you haven't already, go ahead, hit the bell, like, subscribe, and then comment. If you find anything in this innovative series, mini podcast series helpful, let me know. So like I said, in episode 1, we talked about adopting the disruptor mindset and why shaking up the status quo is so important. Now let's get practical. How do you actually find a disruptive idea for your business? How do you spot the opportunities that others have overlooked? This episode is all about idea generation and opportunity recognition for would-be disruptors. We'll explore where disruptive ideas come from, how to identify pain points and unmet needs in your market, and the importance of looking at the world through a different lens. By the end, you'll have some concrete strategies and inspiring examples to help you discover your own game-changing ideas. Remember, every industry has opportunities for disruption, sometimes hidden in plain sight. Let's learn how to spot them. And for today, let's start with looking for problems and pain points. The starting point for many disruptive ideas is a problem that's begging for a solution. Pay attention to pain points, whether they are your customers' frustrations or inefficiencies in your industry that everyone else just simply tolerates. Ask yourself, what annoys or inconveniences people about the current way things are done? Disruptors often emerge by solving a problem that established businesses have ignored. A classic example is Airbnb. The founders of Airbnb, Brian Chesky and Joe, whatever his last name is, didn't set out to revolutionize the travel industry first. And no offense, if I can't pronounce your last name, I'm not going to butcher it. Mine is terrible to pronounce. It's Kashmirchik. Good luck spelling it. But they didn't set out to just revolutionize the travel industry at first. They just noticed and identified a problem. In 2007, as broke roommates in San Francisco, they saw that all the hotels in town were booked during a big conference. People needed a place to stay, so they got creative and offered air mattresses in their apartment, calling it Air Bed and Breakfast. It was a small experiment born of a simple need, but it resonated. The idea of renting out a spare room or house to travelers struck a vein of unmet demand. Fast forward a few years, and that scrappy experiment grew into Airbnb, a global disruptor in hospitality with millions of listings in over 200 countries. Airbnb's rise came from addressing a two-sided problem. Travelers wanted cheaper, authentic lodging options, and homeowners had unused space. The hotel industry had long overlooked these segments, but Airbnb unlocked an enormous new market by solving a problem in a new way. The Airbnb story highlights a key principle. Listen to the market gaps. What do customers complain about? And it could be an emotional complaint, like something that they have to do that just frustrates them, or something they have to do that really causes them pain. For instance, if you're a creator, like many people are, buildings and setting up and adding lighting and learning how to do all that is very complicated. And for some creators, it gets very frustrating, especially creators that do all of this stuff themselves. When you're starting a podcast, in your mind, you just get a mic, but then you find that mic's not recording right, and you have to get an interface, and then you have to get, and all of these complicated steps. So there are a lot of innovations in that industry. For instance, there's a lot of software like Descript that's designed to help people with podcast video-like content or long-form content be able to edit video like it's editing a Word document, or Captions, which solves the problem of once you filmed a material, how do I take a long form and cut it up? Well, Captions app, literally called the Captions app, takes it apart for you. Or you can use any of those apps that make captioning, or what we call burn-in captions, an easier experience, especially the animations, when the industry standard to use is After Effects or Final Cut or a combination of other technologies that really have a steep learning curve and take so very long to learn. And because it takes this long to learn, The entry point to the market has become isolated, and it takes a lot of effort, money, and resources to get into that market. Well, now, with the advent of AI and the advent of people embracing more neural network computations, you're able to have access to what would literally be an entire industry of professionals in less than $500. Trust me, I know. What workarounds do you want to invent because existing services don't fully meet your customers' needs? These gaps and workarounds are fertile ground for disruption. And remember, disruption is not a bad thing. I know it sounds negative, but when we refer to disruption, we're referring to here's the status quo, and I'm going to change that status quo. Same thing Apple does. I'm giving you the keys that Apple and great innovators have used to transform businesses and to create entirely new lines of business from old lines of business, and verifiably shaking the ground. As you run your business or go about your daily life, like in your current industry, keep your opportunity radar on. Maybe you'll notice customers of a certain product are frustrated by its complexity. Maybe you're frustrated by something and you note that other people are frustrated by the same thing. Can you offer a simpler, more user-friendly alternative? Maybe a service is too expensive for many people. Could you provide a more affordable model? Perhaps leveraging technology to cut costs. Similarly, the Universe platform that I'm building is designed to cut your technology costs while providing you world-class experience. Instead of you having to ask 1 million developers to hop on board and to develop an account system, develop an email system, develop subscriptions, connect to payment gateways, and connect and be able to build pages, and sometimes it will take them 8 to 16 hours to build one page, and it's different and unique, and people have their own, variations of styles, and your CSS style sheet goes long, and there's no consistency. Well, the Universe platform that I've been building is designed because it's designed to answer my clients' problems. Many of my clients used to use WordPress. Some of them used to use Shopify, and still use Shopify as the back end, but they've had this problem with the front end being so complicated, and the entry point to the market is just so far-fetched that their current design or the current feature set is just not what they want, nor what they need. And in some cases, they're able to hobble together something that looks okay, but when they want to take that next step in their business, whether it's a nonprofit seeking more donations, or whether it's a local marketplace that has over 30 locations, and they just want to be able to transact and make their business grow and expand while protecting that family feeling or the connection that the customers have to their product. And technology can get in the way of that. An application can die, a website can die, a service can go offline. And so I've been working on a platform, an entire platform ecosystem, if you will, although that sounds too far-fetched. We'll just call it a platform that enables you to build a website that is consistent with your brand, right? So much so that it's also integrated with the user experience. So users feel their privacy is protected, they feel that they have a consistent experience, they get receipts, they're able to add and manage their payment information, and all of these features and things that other companies were like, well, we can't let someone else do that. They'll, if you allow people to unsubscribe easily, well, that's a problem. Well, if you solve these problems, then the entry point for a customer, the way I've solved this problem, to your app is far less than using a complicated system such as single sign-on system or OAuth or any variation of the two. And you can't seem to get this interconnectivity for the customer's experience. Well, I've built a platform, and I've been working on it, and I'm very, very excited to launch it in the next couple weeks or months, to just be able to share it publicly, as other clients have benefited from this, because I took existing technology and developed new concepts and new ideas that triggered me to be able to reinvent technologies and do so fast with, the help of artificial intelligence. Only a small percentage of the code is artificial intelligence. Everything else is all human curated and all, pretty much over 1 million lines of code that I've personally invested into this platform. And it's changed and it's grown and it's adaptable. And it's come to the point where I can make changes for customers' websites and customers' applications in near seconds compared to what would take hours. Why? Because you have to think in that disruptive mindset. You have to change and shift your concepts. I've worked with companies who have got stuck in their ways and were unable to meet customer demand because they just didn't want to do things a certain way or just didn't feel what their customers felt and couldn't make that connection. You have to understand your customers are going to help propel you to your future, or you're going to fail. If you have no customers, you're not a business. You're a liability. And so to serve your customers, you have to learn what hurts, what pain points you need to solve. And it could be pain points in your current version. Say you have a very successful product, and then later you find out, well, they're having new and variant problems with that framework or that software. Okay, then you have to disrupt yourself. I'm getting ahead of myself. We have a couple more podcasts, so let's continue, right? Disruptive companies often start by serving overlooked customers or low-end markets that big players ignore. For example, a giant corporation might focus on its most profitable customer segment, leaving entry-level or budget-conscious customers underserved. In opening for a nimble disruptor to swoop in with a no-frills affordable option, look where others aren't looking. If everyone in your industry chases the same big fish clients, consider targeting a different segment. Remember, if everyone's searching for the same fish, everyone's a piranha, everyone's a shark, and they're all going after the same fish, there's going to be no fish left, and eventually piranhas will start attacking one another. You want to thrive in business, and this, being a disruptor, having that mindset of being innovative, challenging the status quo, listening to your customers, it seems like an innovative and far-fetched concept, or for some people it's like, well, I should always listen to my customers. But when you get into business, it's very easy to think that your business should reflect you and should reflect your values and your pursuit, and it can, as long as you serve your customers. If you're not serving your customers and your customers aren't resonating with your vision, your values, and your purpose, you're going to find a huge disconnection. Remember, we talked about that why. If your customers can't resonate with that why, it's just as bad, if not worse, than just releasing products and calling it a day. Targeting a different segment whose needs aren't being met is going to help propel you into the new industry or propel your business from what it was to what it is. Less than 5% of small businesses survive beyond their 5 years. Almost 90 to 95% of businesses fail within their 5 years because they don't listen to their customers and they don't innovate. Let's survey the landscape. To find ideas, you also need to expose yourself to new ideas. That might sound obvious, but many would-be entrepreneurs get stuck in their own bubble. Make it a habit to survey the landscape, read industry magazines, tech blogs, trend reports, anything that might spark inspiration. Attend conferences or networking events, even outside your immediate field, and listen for emerging trends or common pain points discussed. Mark L. Johnson, in an AWCI article on being a disruptor, advises that you look for ideas, you read magazines, blogs, and books, but be open to new ideas. Even if they are at first seem far-fetched, often the seed of a disruptive idea comes from seeing something novel elsewhere and realizing how it could apply to your market. Maybe you read about a new technology or artificial intelligence, a new model or a new type, a different way of thinking, like the new reasoning models that ChatGPT and others have embraced. Or maybe you have a new business model in another industry and ask yourself, could this concept be adopted to solve problems in my industry? Maybe people are charging monthly subscriptions, and maybe you can charge a little bit more, but instead of charging monthly, you charge weekly. So it's a little bit less to the client, but you make a couple bucks more. That kind of variation shift may actually be better for people to budget who are living week to week or living bi-weekly. as opposed to a monthly one. Maybe you're getting a lot of churn rate because people aren't budgeting for the expense and they're getting overdrafts if you're going for that low-end market we mentioned earlier. All of these things factor into how to conduct business. And not just how to conduct business, but how to serve your customers. Remember, making money is a secondary component to serving your customers. It sounds so cliche, but Scripture says it right. If you want to be the best, you want to be the head, then you have to be the greatest servant. Those who serve customers will have customers coming back, will build that brand loyalty. You're not going to get loss of customers. Those who don't serve their customers, don't innovate, they're going to fall flat and die. In fact, if you're feeling right now, maybe you started a business in COVID, and there are many people who have, and your business was going good, and then all of a sudden things shifted again, and you didn't innovate, and now you're seeing your business fail. And you're seeing questions and comments about that business, and you're trying to figure out how to innovate. And maybe people have raised the red flag and said, you need to try this or do this. And you're like, no, I'm not paying attention to that. Or I'm not. If you don't listen to your customers that you're serving, you're going to fail. I almost guarantee it. But if you listen to your customers you're serving, they can give you forgiveness for the past and see that you've changed things. And it all depends on how you approach it. But chances are very highly, the more open you are to innovation and serving your customers in the way they want to be served, and the way they need to be served, well, it's going to change your industry. Also, think ahead of the curve with emerging technologies and societal shifts. Is there a new technology on the horizon that could shake things up? Is there a new legal framework or new law coming out that could affect your industry? Okay, start preparing now before things shake up to an event where someone else is innovative and been able to satisfy those requirements and create something new, and you are left behind. The AWCI article I mentioned earlier gives examples like 3D printing, blockchain, and construction. Initially far-fetched ideas, but those who experiment early could carve out a niche. For instance, if we today designed flying cars, moved away from the streets, all possible. There are actually some cars right now that you can, if you have a pilot's license, that they transform from a plane-ish looking device to land and be able to drive. But those are not as far-fetched as we thought. Because someone's like, I need to shake up this industry. Could you imagine the personal freedom of being able to fly in the air and go miles and miles faster and be able to arrive to locations? It brings interconnectivity. It allows people to transport themselves and have freedom to be able to live, halfway across the country and be able to work the other halfway across the country. But if you're not innovating and you're just building cars and you're just doing the same thing and you're not paying attention to emerging technologies, even if you have a stable vehicle, eventually a vehicle could be obsolete. And your entire line of business dies legit overnight. Paul Earle, the innovation lecturer we quoted earlier, puts it this way. If you completely absent in smaller market experiments, that's a sign you're in trouble. You should have lots of little bets going on in any given moment. In other words, experiment. You don't have to bet your whole business on a hunch, but try small projects or pilot programs to test innovative ideas. Maybe there's a cutting-edge tool or platform. Play around with it and see if it opens new possibilities. Many big disruptors started as the side experiments. Google famously allows employees 20% time for side projects, which led to products like Gmail, which now has catapulted them to serve businesses in a whole new way with Google Apps for Business and Google Enterprise. As a small business, you might not have 20% time to formally let your employees run wild and pursue personal projects, but you can cultivate a spirit of experimentation. Tinker with new methods. Try offering a new service on a small scale. Run a short-term pilot with a subset of customers. These little bets can reveal big opportunities. Think like an outsider. Sometimes the best disruptive ideas come from looking at a problem with fresh, outsider perspective. When you're deeply embedded in an industry, you might take certain constraints for granted. Try to step back and question the assumptions everyone else accepts. A famous quote often shared in innovation circles, I think it's a tribute to Henry Ford, is, "If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. But we understand that now to mean cars, automobiles that couldn't be fathomed before." Sometimes a solution to a pain point is something your customers don't know, but you can create and innovate the solution to that pain point. And once you solve that pain point, you're off to the races. The point is that customers might not envision the radical solution, but an outsider or visionary might realize the real need is not a faster horse, but a car. To generate disruptive ideas, practice thinking like a beginner or an outsider. Biggest thing I tell creatives, if you're building anything creatively and you're marketing, look at what you're building as an outsider. Think of yourself as a customer. Close your eyes, take 15 minutes, take a break, walk somewhere, grab a cup of coffee, and then come back and then analyze and say, okay, if I'm looking at this for the first time, what am I seeing? Ask questions like, why? Why are we doing things this way? Industry insiders may have stopped asking those questions and may have just put up with it. Why do we do it this way? Is there a different approach that would achieve the core goal more effectively? For example, think about banking and finance for decades. Everyone assumed you had to go through banks for loans, payments, etc. Then fintech startups came along and asked, why? Why not use online platforms for peer-to-peer lending? And some of them had a rocky startup, but they knew it was where everything should be going. Why not let people pay each other instantly with a phone app like Cash App, PayPal, Square, and many others? They disrupted finance by fundamentally reimagining transactions and banking services, often as outsiders to the traditional banking world. Similarly, when Dollar Shave Club started, its founder wasn't from the shaving industry. He just saw that buying razors was frustrating and expensive, dominated by a couple of big brands charging high prices. His disruptive ideas was to sell razors via subscription online cheaply, a simple idea that later Gillette and others had never tried. That outsider perspective combined with clever marketing turned Dollar Shave Club into such a success that it was acquired for $1 billion. That's an example of a small disruptor forcing the big guys to pay attention. Combine and adapt ideas. So innovation often comes from combining existing ideas. I think an artist somewhere once said that there's nothing new underneath the sun. Well, that's in scripture. But then an artist said, well, great artists copy and great artists steal. I'm not telling you to do that, but innovation often comes in unexpected ways. By combining existing ideas in a new way, you don't necessarily need to invent a brand new technology. You can take a technology or method from one context and apply it to another. Jay Samad, a digital media innovator, said, "Disruptors don't have to discover something new. They just have to discover a practical use for new discoveries." Maybe there's a cutting-edge tool, like we just said, or app or AI used in one industry that no one in your field has adapted. Could you be the first to harness it? Or perhaps a business model like subscription, sharing economy, freemium software, etc., switching from monthly to weekly, that has been proven successful in one domain could be transposed to a different domain. Keep an eye on cross-industry trends. For instance, the ride-sharing model of Uber Lyft later inspired similar models in other areas: scooter sharing, home services, on-demand, etc. The concept of a marketplace platform to connect providers and consumers can apply to everything from freelance work, like Upwork, to handcrafted goods like Etsy. If you see a trend in one area, ask how it might play out in yours. Another tactic, or brainstorming, you can extreme what-if scenarios. What if your core product was 10 times cheaper? What if it was entirely online? Or conversely, what if an online service had a retail presence? Apple did that. Well, they weren't an online, but you had to order it through other vendors and you had to go to specific stores like CompUSA. That was a store. And so Apple was like, you know what? I don't like their stores. I don't like how we're in the middle of all this other, and it's confusing and no one's understanding our product, so let's create our own stores. And that was an investment that produced multiplied billions, if not trillions of dollars to Apple. What if you targeted a completely different customer base? Challenge yourself with these what-ifs can yield unconventional ideas. For example, many disruptors have asked, what if we removed the middleman and ended up creating direct-to-consumer models that undercut traditional distribution methods? Warby Parker did this for eyeglasses by passing optical retailers and selling directly online at lower prices. Others asked, what if we made the high-end service available to the mass market? I've asked that question. What high-end service? Synchronized accounts, synchronized receipts, synchronized subscription. Brands that are modern, built in entire styles and themes that not only scream great marketing and modern appeal, but are enhanced by connecting to a global account system, by handling email differently, by asking all those questions. Essentially, what many low-cost airlines did to disrupt traditional carriers was by stripping down services to offer much cheaper flights, and more people could afford. There's another option. Maybe you can save money by taking away a particular service that no one actually uses, or maybe they do, maybe it's 15%, and you remove it. Maybe like in all these companies adding all this AI to cloud stuff, and they're charging more and more and more. Google's one of them. Maybe you offer the service without AI. And people are okay with that. And then you're not paying the extra cost, and maybe the price goes to 15% of what the competitors have. Here's a real-world case. Small businesses that disrupted industries. Let's look at a few quick examples. Relatively small startups that found a disruptive niche. Okay, GoPuff. Maybe you haven't heard this. This is a company started by 2 college students beginning as a delivery service for convenience store items, snacks, essentials, on demand. It wasn't a fancy new invention, it was the idea of ultra-fast delivery of everyday items. They noticed that while pizza and cheese food delivery was common, no one was delivering convenience store goods late at night and to college kids. So GoPuff built their own network of micro-fulfillment centers and drivers to bring chips, drinks, and household items to your door in minutes. They essentially disrupted the corner store by bringing it to you. Fast forward, and GoPuff grew massively, reportedly raising over $1 billion in funding within 8 years. The lesson, they spotted an unmet need, instant convenience, and capitalized on it. Duolingo. Language learning was traditionally done via classes or expensive software like Rosetta Stone. Duolingo came along with a radically different model, a free app that teaches through gamification that founders saw an opportunity to disrupt language education by making it fun, accessible, and free. They had a clever business model of monetizing through translations and later subscriptions, but the core learning service is free. Duolingo's app turns learning into a game and streaks and points, appealing to people who would never pay for a course or who found traditional methods boring. As a result, Duolingo scaled to hundreds of millions of users worldwide and went public, effectively redefining the industry. The idea didn't require new technology, it required a new approach. Gamification plus free access to an old problem, learning languages. New technology? No, old technology. Reimagined. Stripe, in the tech startup world, well, I can tell you that Stripe in itself has saved many businesses. I can tell you of a particular business, a person that I know that had some trouble with a payment gateway, and they found a way to use Stripe, save themselves some time and frustration. They pay a little bit more in their merchant processing, but they were able to do so. Save some money. But Stripe didn't exist before, so Stripe became a giant by solving this pain point for developers, integrating payment processing into websites. It's clunky, complicated apps, payment gateways, and you have to connect and do PCI compliance. And I would say that there is a component to the Stripe API that's also a little bit complicated. And so when I was looking at payment providers to build this ecosystem, I looked at Stripe. And they have a robust, really, really detailed API, and I'm able to do all sorts of creative things. And it's because two Irish brothers who founded Stripe weren't the first to do online payments. I think PayPal was the first. Don't quote me on that. But they dramatically streamlined the process for developers, offering clean APIs and well-documented APIs. You know, sometimes if an API is confusing to me, and I did a whole blog post, it's confusing to me and I couldn't figure it out in Stripe, I was able to take the Stripe documentation, put it in an AI model and been like, hey, this is the error message I'm getting, I can't seem to find it. And they were like, it was like, boom, here's the error message, this is what it means. Great. Went to that part of the documentation and was able to quickly fix that problem. And I've had that existing payment solutions were built for big banks or big companies or e-commerce giants who just had the development team and the insurance money for PCI compliance and able to do this complicated communications. It was not designed for the new wave of app builders and small online businesses. By catering to the overlooked segment with a superior solution, Stripe disrupted the online payment space and is now one of the most valuable fintech companies probably in the world. Each of these examples started with observing a problem or gap. In your journey, keep a running list of pain points you encounter, either in your own business operations or as a consumer in daily life. Minor annoyances can be major opportunities if you have the insight to fix them in a scalable way. Actionable items and tips that will help you find your big idea. Well, let's summarize some of them so that we can get you disrupting. Here we go. Number one, it's very basic. Here it is. Come a little closer. Talk to your customers. Talk to your customers. Listen between the lines. Run surveys. If someone buys something, they spend a lot of money, great. Pull them aside, ask them information, connect with them, listen. If they have frustrations and pain, listen. Engage with your target audience. What do they wish they could have that they don't? What do they dislike about existing options? Sometimes customers can't articulate a solution, like the faster host problem we mentioned earlier, but they can sure tell you what problems they have. So pay attention to complaints and their wishes. Some of the best startup ideas come from founders who scratch their own itch. If you have a persistent frustration and you can confirm that other people are having it as a consumer or in running your business, chances are others do too. Don't ignore those moments. When you think there has to be a better way to do this, that's your disruptor spirit talking. And it's important to activate that. 3, let's follow emerging trends. Dedicate time to learning about new technologies and broader societal trends. Maybe you pay attention to app developers getting sued because of the percentages and royalties they charge. Maybe you can offer a different solution. Maybe you're paying attention to privacy concerns. Maybe you can offer a different solution. Demographic shifts help, regulatory changes, technology breakthroughs can all open new opportunities. For example, the push for sustainability is a trend spawning disruptors in packaging, energy, food, plant-based meats, etc. If you stay informed, yeah, I know, I'm a vegan, well, technically a pescatarian, so I eat plant-based meat, and most of it's all about the right spices. Hey, Americans, I know you guys enjoy your salt and pepper, but there are a whole new plethora of spices to enhance your food. Anyway, if you stay informed, you might spot how a trend could intersect with your industry. Number 4, experiment and prototype. Instead of overanalyzing in your head, try things out on a small scale. I've gotten a bunch of clients to use parts of my platform, and being able to connect them, and some use more of the platform than others, and able to get and glean information during the development process and glean information from the customers and discover, okay, through this kind of new prototyping phase, how I can, create this platform, what I can learn as I grow and as I disrupt. So it's okay to create a prototype and see how people respond. Early experimentation can validate whether your idea has any traction at all, and if an experiment fails, it may reveal something you didn't or hadn't considered that leads to a better idea. Keep those little bets running. Number 5, network and brainstorming. Surround yourself with creative thinkers. Sometimes discussing ideas with others or hearing about their challenges can spark an insight. Join entrepreneurial meetups or online communities or think tanks or shared office spaces. You might discover that a solution to someone else's problem inspires a twist that applies to your own situation. 6, think big. Start small. It's great to have a big disruptive vision. Now this is important if you're an entrepreneur, because many entrepreneurs, many dreamers, many visionaries suffer with this problem. So just pay attention, okay? Think big, but start small. It's great to have a big disruptive vision, but you can start with a narrow focus. Identify a specific niche or segment where you can trial your idea. Disruptive startups often begin by doing one thing really, really well for a small group. Uber initially targeted San Francisco tech workers who hated hailing cabs. Amazon started with just selling books online. And you can expand later. The initial goal is to prove a concept and learn. And you can even project your name to mean more in the future and start small, like Amazon or Apple. Apple started creating computers that began to be used in the education industry. Great. Remember that finding a disruptive opportunity is often a process. It's not a single eureka moment. Much like faith in Jesus Christ is not, I got the fire insurance, I'm saved now. It's a continuous day-to-day thing. And so you need the opportunity to allow the process to work. Sometimes it's filled with little eureka moments or big ones, but you got to continue. Don't just take your one eureka moment and walk away with it. It might require iterating on an idea or combining multiple insights. Stay curious and keep probing. As entrepreneurs and author Ash said, life's too short to build something nobody wants. So invest the time up front to ensure there's a real need and desire for the solution you came up with. If you identify a real burning problem and you have a clever way to solve it, you're well on your way to being a disruptor. Here's my closing thoughts. Opportunity often hides in the blind spots of established businesses and conventional thinking. Train yourself to see those blind spots. In the next episode, we'll shift from idea to execution. Having a great idea is one thing, but how do you turn it into a reality and actually disrupt an industry? We'll discuss how to develop and execute your disruptive idea, because an idea without execution is just a dream. As we wrap up this exploration of finding a disruptive opportunity, keep in mind the words of William Bullard. Learning and innovation go hand in hand. The arrogance of success is to think that what you did yesterday will be sufficient for tomorrow. Always be learning, always be observing and challenging yesterday's solutions. That's where tomorrow's disruptive opportunities lie. In episode 3 again, we're going to cover how to bring your ideas to life, iterate, and strategize for maximum impact. Of course, it's like part 3 of the Disruptor Innovation series, episode I think 19 or 20. Your disruptive idea might start small, but with the right approach, it can grow to shake the industry. Just like the air mattresses in a living room turned into a $30 billion company. Okay? You may notice all of the information, all of the companies and examples we gave to you are multiplied billions. A disruptive, innovative mindset catapults to billions. You can still fail. I'm not saying you can't. But I'm saying this is what billion-dollar companies do, and billion-dollar ideas are made from. Ideas are powerful, especially when you act on them. So for today, let me pray for you before we go. If you haven't had already an opportunity before I pray, hit the like button. Subscribe, hit the little bell, you'll get a notification. Let me know how you felt this was helpful to you, or if you have questions or comments, drop me a DM. I got no problem answering your questions and comments. I'm here for you. I want to see you succeed. So many times, marketers and people do things like this, and they're like creating a podcast and they're so disconnected. And no, I want to be here to see you succeed. My entire service and platform that I tell you I'm building it to help people like you succeed in very complex technological areas. Trust me, I may seem like a marketer with these, but trust me, I know coding, and I've developed it for many, many years. Not that I'm perfect, not that I know everything, but I'm innovative, visionary, just like you. Lord, I thank you right now that you have given us the creative ability to cultivate the garden and to produce and to create and to do more above and beyond what we think, Lord God. I thank you that you gave us that natural ability to creative, that we're imago Dei, created in your image, Lord. And I thank you that not only were we created in your image, but you gave us that ability to create something from nothing, where you can speak it and it exists. You gave us a mind to create worlds and dream, and then hands and feet, the ability to pursue the vision and purpose you put in our heart. And I thank you, Lord God, that everyone who's watching, Lord, that you inspire them with peace, patience, creativity, and allow them to pursue the vision and purpose that you have for their life. I pray this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. We'll see you next time, right here on Create.